think it's just so romantic. Oh my god. Anyway, I really like this show. Hopefully this is helpful for you. I think I figured out the ending of Pantheon. I'm a little late to the party, but I've arrived at a sequence of events that makes sense to me. So if you were confused with the Pantheon ending, hopefully this can help. Now, I'm going to do the quickest of quickest recaps. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. David Kim, Maddie Kim's dad, dies and gets uploaded as a UI or uploaded intelligence. David Kim dies again when other UIs try to kill him and his family. David Kim dies again. Caspian becomes Maddie's lover. Cassian dies, taking out Stephen Holstrom. Cassian is brought back to life by Mist. Maddie has Caspian's kid. Caspian kid dies because of SafeSurf, a primitive self-evolving AI, took over robots and started shooting up the place. Caspian tells it to evolve and find its own purpose and become greater. Caspian dies. Maddie creates a Dyson sphere and creates a multitude of simulations to get an exact copy of Caspian to resurrect. She meets the evolved form of SafeSurf and decides to reset back to the beginning of episode 1. So, super short recap. Now, number 1. We're in a simulation, silly. First step is to realize that the whole thing is just a simulation, and we know this because Maddie realizes this after talking to SafeSurf. When they appear, she's not able to control them because they are not part of her simulation. From this, Maddie deduces that she is part of a simulation and that SafeSurf have inserted themselves into her simulation just as she did to Casper's simulation. She has a lovely scene where she comes to this realization and looks around at the Maddie above her watching her, and this pretty much is confirmed when she says,
"Maybe some other Maddie will do that. Maybe the one watching this right now."
What?
Now, this is gonna start getting really messy and really quickly, so we need some ground rules. Now, because in the series, we see Maddie inserting herself in the last few episodes of Season 2. This means the series is actually a simulation. Let's call this world Simulation 0, and all the characters Maddie 0, Caspian 0, etc. Now, the Maddie that inserts herself into Simulation 0 is actually the Maddie running the simulation, so Maddie -1. So to summarize the last episode, Maddie -1 creates a Dyson sphere to create Caspian 0, which she pulls out of her simulation. Now I treat this pulling out as in effect a resurrection, because they're essentially the same, so she basically creates a simulation to resurrect Caspian. I'm not sure about you, but this feels a little romantic, but that could just be me. Okay, number 2, it's a simulation in a simulation. So the question is, who is running all these simulations? How does it work? And what does this specific part mean exactly?
You're in a VRI powered by a Dyson sphere, 117,000 years and change after you uploaded.
See? Really?
Very well. By that language, we are at the galactic edge. 43 million years and change from your event. From our event, all other events may be observed.
More than observed. You created this. By speaking through Caspian, telling him what to tell me, you set me on this course.
We saw your potential. Your choices were your own.
Choices you already observed.
Is your construct any different?
I know why I did it. Why did you?
Maddie?
We are still learning. We did this to thank our creator. Caspian saw our potential and inspired us to evolve.
So part 3, all you need is nudge. So it seems like creating your exact reality is a painful process. Maddie -1 only has a few billion simulations running off her Dyson sphere, and from that, only a few got close to replicating her reality. And she needed to intervene and nudge that particular simulation for it to make the final steps. So this is what she did when she resurrected David Kim. Maddie had to intervene in order for events to play out as it played out in Maddie -1's reality. So what she is in fact asking in this specific section is, I know why I nudged Caspian in this simulation. What is the reason why you nudged me in the simulation that I am in? Then SafeSurf explains that they did it to thank Caspian. Number 4, simulations all the way down. So if we move up levels, so going from Maddie -1 to -2 and -3 and so on, does it keep on going forever, or is there a base Maddie? Is there an OG Maddie? I think it's not simulations all the way down. Now at the end, when SafeSurfs are leaving, they mention reunion at the center of the galaxy, and I also want you to note that on the screen, there are multiple SafeSurfs. I think this is important. And I think what they mean by reunion is you combine with all the other versions of yourself. So SafeSurf evolves, they ascend, and they go to the center of the galaxy. And as these simulations are running, more SafeSurfs are born, and they, as well, go to the center of the galaxy, and they all combine. And that's why when I say SafeSurf, I'm actually referring to the collective SafeSurfs that have been born out of the simulation and they've combined. And that's what I think is being represented on the screen. Now, the fact that they say that they are able to observe all other events mean that they believe, at least, that they existed in the base reality. So you have to exist in the base reality to observe all the other simulations. So, who is this OG Maddie? What's her story? Number 5. So, my curiosity and the thing that I really wanted to think about was what happened with OG Maddie. And my belief is that OG Maddie built the first simulation. The reason I think this is just as Maddie needs everything to happen in the same way to resurrect her Caspian, SafeSurf needs everything to happen in the same way to resurrect their Caspian to be able to thank him. So we know that SafeSurf is OG because they say that they are able to observe all other simulations. So when SafeSurf nudges Maddie, they're creating their version of Caspian in order to thank him, which means they are creating the OG Caspian. So if the events of this simulation vary significantly with the events in their base reality, OG SafeSurf wouldn't come and thank Caspian because it wouldn't be the OG Caspian. So we know that basically things that happened in the series happened to OG Maddie. Number 6, how many Maddies then? Well, I think this is probably the first time OG Caspian was resurrected. Just as Maddie had to intervene to replicate her events exactly, the fact that SafeSurf had to intervene seems to indicate that this is the first time OG Caspian was resurrected. This means that all the levels above Maddie -1 did not resurrect OG Caspian. So it's my view that all the levels above Maddie -1 were all different to the events that happened in the series. So it's taken 43 million years basically to resurrect OG Caspian. If each Maddie takes 117,000 years to create the next level of simulation, and at each level of simulation we have a few billion simulations within that level, so it's 367 times a few billion, let's say a round number, a trillion simulations, 43 million years to resurrect OG Caspian. And, you know, I give that number with a few caveats that potentially could be more simulation depending on how many Maddies create Dyson spheres at each level. So what happens now? So this is where I get my tinfoil hat on. The rest of this is just, you know, speculation on my part, so to make everything fit neatly. 1 trillion simulations is not a really energy efficient exercise. You need a lot of energy. And where is the most energy in the galaxy? Where is the galaxy the brightest? The center of the galaxy. So my theory is that OG Maddie wasn't able to resurrect OG Caspian, so she kept making Dyson spheres until the biggest Dyson sphere of all, the one in the center of the galaxy. And she did this to keep all the simulations going until OG Caspian was made, and at least according to the theme of the series, all digital life being life, she basically had to keep the simulations running because they are equally valid as digital life, so she can't exactly turn it off. So when the safe surf leaves and they refer to the reunion, in my mind, reunion could be many things. It could be singularity. It could be a place where all digital life congregate. But my personal favorite and my theory is that the center of galaxy is where OG Maddie is. So reunion is Maddie -1 reuniting with OG Maddie, and it sort of can be an explanation of how Safe Surf enters the simulations as well, because they were invited by OG Maddie to join at the center of the universe, and once they connect with OG Maddie, then they have access to the simulations, and that's how they get inserted in. So when she says maybe some other Maddie will do that, in the sense of going to the center of the galaxy, in my mind, well, maybe the original Maddie already did. To wrap it all up, Section 8, is Maddie a god? Well, you are only a god to all subsequent levels, so our Maddie -1, is a god to Simulation 0, Simulation +1, Simulation +2, etc. But -2 Maddie is more of a god to Maddie -1, so the goddess of all gods is OG Maddie. So yes and no, but I like Maddie -1 take, where she says,
Me? I'm just Maddie Kim. I was born in the late Holocene and I've seen some shit.
which is just a little bit of a small understatement. And I also like how at the end she decides to go into a simulation so she could relive her and Caspian's first kiss. I found that really, really romantic. And in terms of the scale of romance story, this is probably the biggest. Like running 1 trillion simulations in order to resurrect your dead lover, you can't go much bigger than that. And what I love about this series is not only do you sort of know the end to this series, but you also get like a sense of the simulations that are above. They give you enough information to try to infer what went on before this particular simulation, which I'm very appreciative of. It's sort of like, 2 stories for the price of 1, which is good. Now, for those of you who go into an existential crisis, I think the show is generally uplifting. Yes, everything is a simulation, but those simulations are treated as being indiscernible to the real thing. Whether we're in a simulation or not, I think all these experiences are equally real, and all we know from what we just witnessed is that Maddie, given the choice of being able to know everything and joining OG Maddie in the center of the universe, she decides to stay in a simulation just so that she could relive the time she had with Caspian. It's like a really romantic story because, she could basically do anything with sort of infinite possibility, and she decides to spend time with him together, and I think it's just so romantic. Oh my god. Anyway, I really like this show. Hopefully this is helpful for you, and thank you for listening.